So back in 2019, the homegrown team acquired the lodge here, as they call it, which is a mixture of valleys and points and spines, and just a really cool chunk that they acquired down here. In the valley here at the lodge, there was about 70 acres of tillable land, which was all being used in production. So the goal was to get that transition into more useful land for deer hunting. So thermal cover, good for fawning cover, and really just a place for hopefully draw more bucks and deer too. So we knew we had a really good foundation here. We just had to kind of curve it up a little bit and make it more hunter friendly, because the access here, it wasn't great in the valley, and we wanted to get more deer to come down here off those big points and ridges where the bucks were typically bedding, from what we found from shed hunting and just seeing the buck sign from last year and years prior, really. So upon acquisition, we sat down and tried to draw up a plan here and look at exactly how we can make this piece better. We knew we wanted to have better access into the valley and set up some strategic food plots, some watering holes, but ultimately access was really one of the big driving factors of the valley here. Because for the guys that hunt in bottoms, they all know that getting in the mornings is very difficult, and getting out in the evenings is even more difficult, because all the deer are out there and you're typically bumping them, and we all know that when you're bumping deer, you're typically not gonna have great odds of killing them and keeping them on their patterns. So we have rednecks on a lot of these bottom plots here, which allow us to get in, out, hunt them effectively while staying relatively undetected. So that was a big factor in setting this farm up once it was acquired. We thought we had a really good game plan, and now it was the execution of it. In the design of this valley, with 70 acres of switchgrass in the bottom with the cedars mixed in, and it butts up next to two core spines that run this farm, we knew that the deer were going to cruise those spines, but also want to come down to the valley and scent check that switchgrass. And the cool part about it, with the switchgrass being right up to the edge of the timber, they could come down on that habitat break, scent check it, and come down and visually check these plots out while getting something to drink, bite to eat, and continue to go on their way and continue to scent check and cruise and look for does. So the cool part about this hunt, and truly what allowed it to come together, was the fundamentals and the strategy of the design work here in the valley. In 2019, last year, we had a buck pop up on this farm, the first year being under ownership under the homegrown team. And it's a buck called DJ, just a beautiful 8-pointer. Like if you ask guys what their favorite buck is, mine is an 8-pointer. You could have a big non-typical freak, and if you have a big, heavy horned 8-pointer, that's the one I want. I've always been really kind of obsessed with 8-pointers, and this guy, he fit the bill. Just a big, tall, beautiful 8-pointer. And he made it through the year last year. So come 2020, we started getting him on camera, expecting him to just blow up. And he did, but he must have gotten hurt last year, or hit by a car, or hit by an arrow or something, because his right side was basically like a 16, 17-inch club. So he was the first one to pop on camera. So more cameras go up and more bucks start showing up. So we end up having about 3 or 4 new bucks that we weren't aware of. One being Jimbo, 150-inch 10-pointer, beautiful, we figure 4 to 5-year-old buck. Another buck called Magnum, just a big, wide, 150-inch buck. And then Christian Gray, who actually was killed early season, but he was right around that 160 mark. Big, beautiful 5-year-old. And then we had one cruise through come through, which came through like once or twice during the summertime. Wasn't real consistent, was definitely a fringe type of buck. Guy lived on the adjacent farms, but we knew we'd see him come October. Despite where any of the other bucks were gonna be or where they showed up, I had one stand in mind, and that was the petting zoo, as we've coined it, because literally you can sit up from the lodge and watch all the deer funnel down, and they're very comfortable down there. They hang out, there's no pressure. So at Homegrown, one of the core principles we try and stay by is keeping the farms unpressured as possible. And that's what the Cuddy Link system allows us to do, is pull into the driveway, pull a chip, and go back to work or go back to our families wherever we gotta be without touching the farm. So literally everything stays unpressured unless we're doing habitat improvement or setting stands. Outside of that, we are never in there, which really allowed us, or this hunt itself, to take place. Our access into there is perfect. You can go right from the lodge between two sections of that switchgrass, and you can sneak down, sneak into the blind, and literally get out of that blind undetected. But that really set up everything for this hunt. Was I knew the access was great, I could get in and out undetected, and I could hunt that pretty often without really messing up the activity in that field. So going into the hunt, we knew we had a really good chance. We were fired up. We were ready to get into that redneck and get down to the bottom at the petting zoo. We felt very confident that we were gonna have a chance to see Magnum, and if not him, another buck. The anticipation was really high. Sitting there in the blind, and we're sitting for about an hour. Deer are starting to filter out, and all of a sudden, Corey says, "Big buck, big buck." I get my binos up, and it's Jimbo, big 150-inch hitless buck that we're chasing, and he's out there just ripping up, making a scrape. And he's feeding, he's going up and down this ridge line, making scrapes all up and down it. And we got like an hour and a half left of shooting light. So I'm feeling really, really good. The night's definitely coming together. So as Jimbo's working that tree line, making a scrape on every low-hanging branch, he's starting to work away from us. And we had about an hour and a half left of light, so I felt pretty good. We had a mock scrape in front of our redneck blind that the deer had been crushing all summer long, coming down. It's a big social scrape. It's right next to the water. And with an hour and a half left of light, I felt really good. And all of a sudden we look up, and he's about 150 yards. He turned around and came back towards us. And he's definitely feeding in our direction. So it's 150, 140. He's slowly but surely coming towards us. And all of a sudden, Jimbo is at 75 yards in a matter of 40 seconds. And we're like, what just happened? So I pull my binos up and I'm looking at him, and it's not Jimbo. So this buck stepped out of the switchgrass to our south behind us and completely cut Jimbo off. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, this ain't Jimbo. This is a bigger buck. I have no idea who this buck is. He's got a split two, gorgeous frame. In my head, I'm thinking 160s all day, maybe bigger. I mean, down here, you have no idea what's on the next ridge, and there's potential to be a mega. And he's coming in, 75, 70, 60. He's coming in, takes a couple more steps, so I figure he's at 43, 42 yards. Come to full draw, I'm thinking he's gonna drop, so I aim 35. As I touched it off, before it even hit, I just knew in my heart that it was gonna be perfect. Boom, hits him, he runs off, goes about 40 yards, and piles up right in the beans. And then the celebration ensues.
We gotta call Jeff. Dude, call closer. Dude, closer. We have to call Jeff. Dude, that would be a booner.
Yeah! Oh my gosh! What a freaking tank!
What did you shoot?
Come on, baby! Come on!
Yes!
Oh man!
Man, hold that baby up.
Dude, I've been waiting for this.
Shoot!
This is like literally 10, 15 years in the making, trying to shoot a deer like this.
Look at that. What did you shoot? Stud.
Dude, matching kickers are starting to push one off right there. Look at those brows, man. I'm telling you, man, I've been waiting, like I said, since I've been 12 years old to shoot something like this. I mean, that's just crazy. If we didn't have that redneck, there's no way we could shoot these deer, no way. It's really a blessing to be able to come out here homegrown and have a chance at something like this. What an absolute beaut. Just all that hard work and culmination into one moment for your biggest buck of your life it's hard to explain.